Do you know what a Sherpa is? Let me know in the comments below, because I don't. Today we are going to be wrenching on our Sherpa kit, the TGH-HH collaboration that has taken me well over a year to put together my own. So, where am I at with the Sherpa build? About right here. Not very far in, but what I'm doing today is I'm going to be putting the Supershafty Capra axles together. I've already installed our third member in our gear set. Nice and smooth with the 833 gear set, I think it was. This is the stock gearing in the pumpkin. Then I'm going to do the stock gearing on the outers because we have 15% overdrive in our T-case, and I want this to be a general trailing rig, so I don't want too much overdrive in it. All right, so what do we need to do next on this? I already got my 3-link on there. I already got my third member installed on there. So what we need to do is build up our outer cases. What are these guys called? Let me know in the comments. They're called something. Portals. Portals are called portal housings. All right, so I'm going to do the portal housings and then we will slip them on. We got all the shafts ready. We got all the bearings ready. We got everything ready. So the next thing to do, I guess, is to install some ball bearings. Let's see if I can eyeball the right ones. So, does anybody have projects that go on for years like I do? No, I'm not talking about projects that you never finish, because I got, 10-year projects if we're going to count those. But projects that you finish. I will definitely finish this one in time, as long as I get the right ball bearing. I can hear in the background we're on hold for some video equipment troubleshooting help. And we've been caller number 6 now for 30 minutes or so, maybe 20, 15. I'm exaggerating here, but we decided to go ahead and start filming. So you may hear the hold music in the background here and there. Don't worry about that. All right, our first ball bearing went in super smooth. Our second ball bearing is being a little more tricky. I accidentally pressed it in slightly sideways, which never helps. And I'll just probably have to use one of these guys to push it. Either that or I just selected the wrong bearing. Let's see. I'll try a different one. You know, there's probably instructions I could look at, but that's never fun. It's a lot more fun to just figure it out. And there goes the bearing. I'm sure I'll need that one later. Well, that's not the right size either. I think I grabbed the right one, so I'm going to have to grab the right one. So I do need to make sure that I'm using the right size bearings. So we'll install these F9 universal axle sets. Yep, that's the one. All right, I'll just use this universal to press it in. It's really tough to get bearing pockets that are round with good surface finishes with a nice slip fit that is not too much of a slip fit. You don't want the bearings to be able to jiggle around, but you want them to slip in, but you don't want them to also have a tight press fit, because that is also difficult to work with. Bonus points in the comment. What would you spec for inches if you wanted a slight interference fit between a bearing and a pocket? What would you spec? I'll give you 10 seconds to type it below. Maybe a little looser than this one. So, assuming a round bearing pocket, a perfectly round bearing pocket with a nice finish to the edge. I'm going to just say nice. I'm not going to give you any specs. Oh, we're caller number 5 now. Yeah. I would spec an interference of 2 10,000ths of an inch. It's not very much. It's just enough so that you would have some friction between the ball bearing body and whatever it's being installed into. Just enough. Oh, there's a little lip on this. Teeniest of lips. Might need to polish that up. Let's try the other one. Oh, I just want to see if it's going to be any easier. So, how'd you do on the interference fit? 2 10,000ths? Is that what you guessed? Would you have said 5 10,000ths or half a thou? That won't work. It won't go in. I'll tell you right now. And of course, you can make specs all you want, and you have to assume that the machinist is actually going to hit those specs too. Telling them what it's going to be and actually getting that is another deal. Of course, having it be round at your spec is also another one, because you could go in with an internal micrometer, measure it. Hey, it looks good, but if it's got some surface finish variation where the end mill kind of chatters, or if it's out of round just a little bit, if it's out of round by, you know, half of a thou somewhere, then the tolerances don't really matter at that point. Even if it's the right size, it's still not going to fit well. The benefits of being a machinist and designer. All right, that one fits a little better. Yep, that one slipped right in. So we'll start on this one. I can see there's just a tiniest little lip. I'm sure it's not even going to show up on the camera, but there's just the tiniest little lip on this that it's hanging on, and I may be able to kind of scrape that with a knife and get that to slip in. So we'll try that. Hey, you got that knife handy back there? Ah! I almost had it. It's just the tiniest little bit of flashing. Oh yeah, it'll be perfect. I hope. There's actually two operations, it looks like, when they were doing this bearing pocket. They did the main level, and then there was a second operation that did the depth of the bearing pocket, and that's where we have that teeny little lip, just the teeniest transition. It's catching our bearing. Maybe, maybe not. This might take a little bit more work. All right, so we are simply going to move along. I'll build up one side. So, got a top bearing in, we'll need a bottom bearing. We shall need these guys coming through on the inside. We got that. I do believe that there's a ball bearing that sits in these. We'll see. You don't really need the ball bearing in that portion, but sometimes it's a good idea because it's going to want to wiggle otherwise. So I'm going to pretend that I read the instructions, and we're just going to put that bearing on, slip her in, make sure that everything has nice tolerance. Oh, I just got it to go in a second ago. Performance on camera sometimes. It's difficult. All right, there we go. Cool, fits in. Slip this in. Oh yes, don't forget the little top hats. We need to install our brass bushings first. And as always, this is metal threading into metal, so I would advise Loctite. So top hat slides in that side, top hat slides in that side. What else would you call these? Pivot bushings, top hats? What is your favorite term? Let me know in the comments. There we go. This is extremely fiddly to assemble. Ha ha. Beautiful. Who else is running these Supershafty housings? They are pretty nice. 7075 T6 if I'm not mistaken. Nice hard alloy. Let's just test her out. Oh, definitely 7075. That's a nice hard aluminum. Cool. All right, so we got this far. Now I need to install the gears, the lower, whatever this thing is, portal stub axle, axial racing part. Boop-a-doop. And our drive shaft pins, or whatever these are. What are these? Cross pins? You'd think I had never worked on an RC car before. I believe an axial gate marker will do the job perfectly. There we go. Oh, one more. So we are working on a live stream setup right now. Trying to get that live streaming, because I think that'd be cool. Also, that means that we could make videos and we wouldn't have to edit them. That also means that I am going to be liable for any screw-ups on camera. So you'll get a lot more candid shots. Although we usually don't do a whole lot of editing. Not to say I don't make mistakes, but typically we just leave the mistakes in, is what we do. All right, that is not going to work that way. I just lost the pin. Where did you go? There it is. Like I said, we usually just leave the screw-ups on camera. Oh yeah, it's looking nice, coming together. So I guess we need bearings in the portal. The portal cover. Nice black portal cover. Make sure you seat these bearings in all the way. I have seen folks having issues online and simply not seating the bearings fully. There we go. That looks seated. Maybe another little tap. There we are. That's in. One more bearing on top. This one is a little tight, a little tighter than what I can do by hand. So I would suggest having a bearing press, a small bearing press. We have an eagle press that we use for small items in the shop. It's essentially a gunsmithing press, just a little guy. Not really big. There we go. That's nice. I wonder, oh yeah, I can just use the opposite side of this. I usually would not recommend beating a bearing in. It's just not a good idea. But I'm a trained professional, aka skilled idiot. All right, back to the other side. We've still got that little bitty lip, just the tiniest, barely imperceivable lip. So, what could we do? What could we do about this? Well, we could always just try to manhandle it through. I mean, if it'll go in a little bit and get past that first portion of the lip, hey, there we go. Then it'll go in the rest of the way. Made it past the first portion of the lip, so that's really all that matters. I'm just gonna try a little tappy tap. It's a dead blow, a soft blow hammer. Yeah, that seems to be working. And again, typically I would not recommend beating a bearing in. I would recommend a bearing press, but sometimes you got to work with what you got. So, what is the next part? Well, we do need to make our steering links. There we go. And these links are from Hardcore RC. And I bought them through Supershafty. Here we go. So, if I recall correctly, I did buy some ball end pliers. Yeah. All right, now that I have that and these fancy ball end pliers that I can use to grip, we will use this little tool from TGH. I don't know what it's called, but it's essentially a rod end adapter or a rod end installer. And then twisty twist. Oh yeah, these tools were worth it. So much easier. And since this is going to be on a steering link, we want the holes to be facing up and down in relation to the bend. Or I guess it would be perpendicular to the bend. Correct me if I'm wrong. There we go. There we are. And this is the drag link, I do believe, for steering. And I'm not sure if that is with the steering on top of the axle or as a 3-link, but I'm just going to go ahead and build this anyway. Tell me, do you like to listen to music when you wrench? It's not the easiest for me to do that since I usually wrench on camera, but normally I would. But considering the old YouTube copyright infringement issues, we just don't risk it for this. And I certainly don't want to listen to that elevator music that is free on YouTube. You know the ones where they're showing you 5 neat hacks to unleash 15 pounds of body fat in 2 days. There, those look nice. That will do. All right, so we are at a point of this bearing pocket again. This is the last thing that needs to happen, and oh, it's so close. Maybe, just maybe, you can see on the camera. Focus. Oh, I don't know. It's very subtle. It's maybe half of a thou, maybe 1 thou, just the tiniest little bit. I'm going to try once more. If I can get it to have a transition right there, then that bearing will go in. It's so slight that even probably a green Brillo pad could be used. Yes, that was it. That was the last strike. Now, if you did get a machined part like this that had slight fitment issues, instead of being bullheaded like me and just making it work, you could always contact the vendor. And typically, if it's a good vendor, and I know Supershafty would not hesitate to send a new part, but in this case, I knew that it was just such a slight bit that I could figure it out. But if something like this did happen to you, you could always contact them and they would send you a new part, exchange it, do whatever was needed to get you running. But I'm not afraid to scrape some stuff with a knife. And I guess we'll need the drive shaft. We shall need the knuckle after the drive shaft, installed in the proper orientation and not backwards. Would recommend the proper orientation. And the screw. The screw. Yeah, these are going to be nice and heavy on the front. Give me a good forward weight bias. I typically like about a 60-40 weight bias towards the front. Sometimes as aggressive as 70, but it's kind of tricky to drive those. The rear end can get so light and unloaded, especially when you're going downhill or side hill downhill. The rear end wants to kind of shift and hop. So you got to have the foams and tires tuned perfectly so that you don't have any tendency to hop around. All right. Oh yeah, she's smooth. Smooth spinning. All right, now, I don't know where I put the screws for the knuckles themselves. Oh yeah, I gotta finish this part out. Getting ahead of myself, folks. You should keep me on task in the comments. What to next? All right, we got these pins, we got those pins, we got these pins. Boop. And a boop. Yes, very nice, very nice. Aha, another tight bearing pocket. Never fear. I have my trusty dead-ish blow hammer here. There we go, and hopefully I didn't wreck the bearings doing that. When I was using this to drive it, I was being careful to be only on the outer race. If you punch on the inner race, you can basically blow the bearings right out or blow a race out. So during all of that, I did try my best to only be on the outside edge of that race. So if you have to do the same, I would suggest that you do the same. Oh, and of course, I had to beat it in and it just falls right out now. That's it. Yeah, there we go. Well, I just got the bearing pocket nice and round. That's all. And does the cover fit? It should. Oh, as long as the pin is underneath the gear proper, which it is not. That's what we need. All right, we got our bearings. We got our outers. We got everything we need, and that's all I need. And this remote control, and that's all I need. This ashtray, that's all I need. And my dog. Well, I don't need you. Anybody, can you name the film? All right. Oh, these are heavy. Yeah. That's going to give some easy weight bias. I won't even have to put everything on front, but I'm going to do it anyway. But yeah, that's nice. Those feel good. All right, we got one ball bearing. This ball bearing is the easiest one to lose when you don't have a completely assembled vehicle. Because what happens, I'm going to just set this down here. And, okay, so it's not falling out now, but I've lost that bearing many times, having some built axles sitting on a shelf. And yeah, so watch out for that. Be smarter than me. All right, all I need is some screws for my steering rod, and we will be good. I don't think that I have any of those in this box, so I will need to find, which I mean just look over here, all of my screws. And there they are. Let's see if a 16 millimeter is long enough. Ooh, stainless. Oh, perfect. 16 millimeter. Two of those. Then it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. I would say pi, but we established in the last video that pi is not actually that easy. What is your favorite pie? Is it easy? Maybe blackberry pie is easy. I don't know. I've never cooked one. All right, back to RC topics. Yeah. Well, I said 16 millimeters is what we need, but I guess we'll also need a drag link to steer with. So what I will end up doing is throwing, I think, a 25 on there. Once I get this mounted on there and figure out the steering and all that. I am not going to get ahead of myself now, so that goes back in the box. Our other axle will be built for another project because I want the aluminum on the front and the plastic on the back for lightweight and forward weight bias. We have ourselves a couple more of these little cross pins for our other axle. So I'm going to put those into this Ziploc bag that is far too large for them. Look at that, perfect size. And we will be good. So as you can tell, this project, as most projects do, can take a lot of time to get done. And that is something to be expected, especially if you are not used to wrenching, especially if it's kind of a custom project where you may have to get, let's see, we're lucky these days that TGH has so many parts for custom builds like this together in one spot, the Sherpa chassis. So one vendor, we'll call myself, two vendors, Supershafty, three vendors, the rear axle comes from a Capra. That is 4 vendors at minimum. Let's say a Castle ESC, if I used on it, that would be 5 vendors. What else do we got? Links from Hardcore RC, that is 6 vendors. Then of course we need wheels and tires. I'm going to be using Vanquish wheels and either Voodoo or Proline tires. So 8 vendors. Then we'll need a body for this, which I've got some bodies around here. That's going to be 9 vendors. Do we want to count the paint from the body as another vendor? Ah, hell, we might as well. There's 10 vendors. Oh, and we need screws for all of this. So, you know, as custom items go, looks like we're using at least 10 vendors, probably 11 to get this one done. And that's one reason why this has been kind of a long process for me. I'm not really focusing on this that heavy. If I sat down and made a big list, a lot of you engineer types probably have spreadsheets with all of the parts, their costs, the vendors, what they are, etc. That's a really good way to go about it. I have been kind of flying loose and fast on this because I have a lot of other things to worry about, and I don't really drive in competitions. It's a lot of fun. I love going to them. I love hanging out. But for me to go and actually be, you know, pressured to drive and have a rig that's all built, for me, it's a little much sometimes. I prefer to just go and hang out and have a good time. I'm no longer a good driver on the scene, so it doesn't matter to me if I placed last. So I don't even worry about placing. That's how it goes. So I think we'll call it good for today. I finally got my front axle built. Now all we got to do is get the links on here, and it's going to be a pretty easy bolt-in process because I already got the rear axle done. Going to yank that from another project, and we will be golden. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good day.